financial advisors, planning for life. Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life.
And good evening, Hampton Roads. Welcome to another edition of Dollars and Common Sense, your local source for objective, unbiased financial advice. I'm your host, Certified Financial Planner Kevin Zivna, coming to you live like I do every second and fourth Tuesday of the month to dialogue with you, take your calls. If you have a question or comment relating to your own personal financial situation or anything I'm talking about here tonight, jump on the phone lines. Give me a call, 627-7979. All we need is your first name, city you're calling from, and no matter what I'm talking about, if it's important to you, then it's important to me. We'll get you right on air, 627-7979. Wealthway Financial Advisors is the proud sponsor of Dollars and Common Sense. We are an independent registered investment advisor, which means we're legally held to a fiduciary standard to put our clients' interest ahead of our own in any business dealing or any recommendation that we make, and that's the way it should be when you work with a financial advisor. As the premier financial planning firm in Hampton Roads, we integrate expert investment management with customized ongoing financial planning advice to help our clients answer life's big financial questions and enhance their quality of life. So by design, we can't work with everyone. We work with a relatively small group of high net worth individuals, but that's one of the reasons we feel so strongly about coming here every second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. That's to reach out and help as many people in the Hampton Roads listening area that we can achieve your measure of financial success, because it is a core belief at Wealthway Advisors that the overwhelming majority of people in this country have the opportunity for financial security if they choose it. And it is a choice because it takes some time, it takes some effort, and it takes some knowledge. We are here to help. You got to take that first step, though. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 627-7979. Whether you want to talk about anything having to do with the investment markets, the economy, insurance products like life insurance, health insurance, property casualty, taxes, tax planning, tax reduction strategies, retirement planning, retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, mortgage options, Social Security claiming strategies, or estate planning, wills and trusts. All that and more falls under the umbrella of personal finance, and we are here to discuss tonight. 627-7979. All right. I am alternatively very excited about this show and also fairly annoyed with myself that we have never held this topic on this show before in the history of Dollars and Common Sense, which dates back into the 1990s with Dan Bunting and Bunting Capital, my predecessor, who we worked together for many years. He ultimately retired, and by the way, he's doing great down in Naples, Florida. I had an email exchange with him last week. He went to the Masters for the Friday round, I believe it was. So he's doing great. But never in the history of Dollars and Common Sense have we talked about this subject. And so I'm going to rectify that now, and I'm going to vow to not let this much time go by again before discussing this topic. It is very counterintuitive. It's going to feel a little odd probably when I start out. But you'll see as we go along that it is a real significant retirement risk. It's the retirement risk that's probably the least discussed, but one of the most common risk that there is. And that is when it comes to retirement, underspending in retirement. That's underspending, not spending enough money. Almost the entire industry of financial advice is built around, in a large part, of helping people save money, amass money, invest money, and use money to get them to retirement and to be able to live off that money comfortably for the rest of their lives once they stop working. But a lot of times, that planning and those efforts are overly conservative. And the industry does a disservice to many of our clients if all we're focused on is accumulation, of amassing as much money as we can over our lifetime. That is not the ultimate objective of most people, is to try to save as much as I can for the rest of my life and die with the largest pile of money, right? No, that's not most people's objective. Most people's unstated objective is to amass enough money to be able to cease work if I so desire, cease working for money if I so desire, and to live off of my means to preserve or even enhance my lifestyle for the rest of my life. So one of the things that happens through that process, though, is so many people's thinking gets caught up in what happens when I run out that they don't spend enough time thinking about how much can I spend without fear of running out. And that's what this show is going to focus on. So many families enter retirement having kind of done everything right, saving diligently, avoiding debt, planning conservatively. But then they find themselves spending far less than they safely could once they transition into retirement. So this show, we're going to help you understand why underspending happens, how it quietly erodes quality of life, and how coordinating financial planning can restore confidence and permission to spend. So underspending in retirement typically comes from an abundance of caution, right? Not ignorance. It's just better be safe than sorry, right? Let's be conservative just in case. We don't know what the future is going to hold, so let's pull in our horns a little bit, especially as we go through this transition into the retirement process when the paychecks stop and you have to live off your own savings and resources for the rest of your life. And so naturally, most retirees' biggest fear at that point in time is running out of money. And that is one way for retirement plans to fail, certainly. It's the most obvious way that a retirement plan could fail, is you spend too much too soon and you run out of money before you run out of life. But good planning is not just about preventing that failure, but enabling enjoyment from the money you have saved, that you have sacrificed for, that you have diligently put away, that you have sacrificed other life experiences and moments and activities in order to have this money one day to then hopefully use to enhance your quality of life. So it's really underspending in retirement is the risk that nobody talks about. And because most retirement plans focus on the risk of running out of money, very little attention gets paid to the risk of never fully using the money that you have decades to save. The caution comes from fear-driven decision-making, right? Not sure about the implications of the decisions that we make today, how it's going to fully affect the future. So that uncertainty causes conservatism. Then you have market headlines, or maybe just any news headlines, if you will, reinforcing caution. I mean, news in and of itself, it tends to be agitating, negative in its connotation. And so that general fear that kind of swirls around us, the big scary world where bad things are always happening somewhere on this planet, thinks, well, we better take things carefully. We better be safe because we don't know what the future is going to hold. We better make sure we have enough, and then we don't spend enough. Then there's also the emotional component that comes with it of shifting from a saver, which you've been your whole life, from the time you've entered the workforce, maybe even before that, maybe you had a paper route. I just dated myself, a paper route. I had a paper route when I was like 12, right? I don't think we had too many kids to live in papers anymore. But maybe you did some babysitting jobs, some other type of menial service labor that a lot of kids did, or at least did at one point in time. You started learning the value of money and started saving some of that money. And you spent your whole life getting to the point of retirement where you then shift from a saver of money to a point where you no longer, typically, if you've done your job right, where you no longer have to save and you can be a spender of the money you spent your lifetime savings. But there's an emotional component that comes with that. You've had habits and behaviors that got you to this point. And just because you retire, you work in one day, you retire the next, does not mean you automatically flip the switch from being a saver to a spender overnight. That does not happen that quickly. So there's an emotional, psychological component to have to deal with as well. And then, of course, there's the other psychological issue is the loss of confidence once the paycheck stops, right? There's a certain security that comes from working for a company, whether it's a small company or a large company, but a company nonetheless that provides you with a steady stream of income in the form of a paycheck. We all almost all of us work in that type of environment. And so once those paychecks stop, it can be a little lonely, scary feeling there. Where is my next paycheck going to come from? And it feels like walking on a high wire without a net. So we can do it, but we better be really, really careful when we're out there doing it. So that's where some of this, the fear comes from when it comes to underspending in retirement. And research backs this up. Vanguard Morningstar recently had retirement research that said that determined that many retirees spend more conservatively than traditional withdrawal assumptions. So the math, the science around financial planning and financial advice can say one thing in terms of your spending level that is safe and secure, and yet people will still choose to spend less than that just in case. Fidelity Retirement Planning Insights study in 2024, it's the uncertainty, not math, that is the primary driver of conservative retirement spending. So people can see the math, they can understand the math, but even still, the mental aspects of where they are in that stage of life in retirement and living off their own savings and investments can make them be more conservative than expected. It's kind of like packing for a long trip, but then never leaving the hotel. So you went to all that planning effort, you did everything to have the trip of a lifetime, and then you never fully enjoyed yourself. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about why underspending happens in just a few minutes. 627-7979. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna. You're listening to Dollars and Common Sense on News Talk 790 WNIS.
Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life. Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life.
And welcome back to Dollars and Common Sense, your local source for objective, unbiased financial advice. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna, the president of Wealthway Financial Advisors, the premier financial planning firm in Hampton Roads, where we integrate expert investment management with customized ongoing financial planning advice to help our clients answer life's big financial questions and enhance their quality of life. For more information about us, check us out online at wealthwayadvisors.com. All right, tonight we're talking about that other retirement risk, the risk of not spending enough in retirement. What? How could that be? Nearly everyone thinks they can't wait to get to retirement. They can't wait to stop working, can't wait to lay on a beach, can't wait to do whatever they want with their own time and have enough money to do it. Don't worry, when I get to retirement, I will have no problem spending money. Well, I'm here to tell you from professional experience, the people who do a good job of saving and investing money and do a good job of their financial planning, those people have a hard time spending their money because they spent a lifetime of habits designed to get them to this point a lifetime of thrift and savings and responsible spending to get them to this point. And while intellectually they know why they did it to have a lot of money one day that they could then live off of without having to work for it, work a job for it. But even if they intellectually know that, it's really hard for them to actually do that, to open up the purse strings, to go ahead and fly first class, to buy the luxury vehicle now that you have enough money, to maybe get the second vacation home out in the mountains. It's really hard to go from a lifetime of savings to then the rest of your life of spending. All right. As promised, when you get a caller on the line, we're going to break in to the caller, and we've got Pete in Norfolk. Good evening, Pete. You're on Dollars and Common Sense.
Thank you. I'm in a situation where I'm going to make a roof repair here shortly, and it's going to be rather hefty, about $25,000. I have about half of that in cash already, and I was wondering if I should pull from my thrift savings plan to do that. I'm 73, and so I'm going to be taking the minimum required distributions, or should I get like a home loan at a low interest rate?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Pete, thanks for that question. Well, generally speaking, given the fact that you're 73, you're going to be taking your required minimum distribution soon, a certain amount is going to need to come out of that thrift savings plan, correct, this year?
Yeah, that's going to be around 5 or 6K.
Mm-hmm. And then, and you have half the money saved up, you said, of the 25?
Correct. So I'd be pulling out like equal to 3 years worth
of your required minimum distribution if you took the rest of the amount out, right?
Yeah, to pay for the roof.
Yeah. Well, so you got half of it saved. You're going to have to take out 5 or 6 this year. That gets you to roughly 15, 16, 17, 18,000-ish, and with only about another 7 to go, it sounds like, on the roof repair. I would generally say that you're close enough where maybe you could afford to take a little bit more out of that thrift savings plan this year and not have to deal with any sort of loan situation with a bank. And have to jump through all the hoops to get qualified and so forth. Remember, the required minimum distribution is just that. It's the minimum you have to take out on an annual basis. You can always take out more than that, but you definitely want to do so prudently, and you don't want to do so recklessly. Doesn't sound like you're doing that here. Sounds like the amount that you need to complete the job is relatively attainable by the amount that you have in the TSP. And I think for this one particular decision set, that it would be okay to reach into that TSP and take the rest of what you need and pay cash for the whole project.
As opposed to the interest that you would earn. And that's what I was trying to look at, is the interest I'm earning on the account compared to the interest that I would pay on. I have an open door HELOC, which I could just go to with just a minimal amount of time to get the funds needed. I think that would be 6% right now, compared to what I'm getting earnings or close to that same number. So it's almost a wash. So it sounds like just going ahead and drawing from the thrift is prudent, wise, and economical.
Yeah, okay. Knowing that you have an established home equity line of credit that you've already got set up, that's a key point. And you're thinking about the problem the right way, the cost of money. What is the cheapest cost to get those additional funds? Would it be a loan, or would it be withdrawing from an investment vehicle that is maybe earning at least currently, more than that 6% loan. That is how you kind of want to think about the problem, and you want to take the money from the cheaper source. But in this case, I think the dollar amounts are so relatively low that it's not going to move the needle either way. And also, given that the interest rates or the performance rates are probably pretty close at this point in time. So I would say do what's most efficient and easy for you.
So the window I look through is the window of the tax burden, because I would pay a hefty tax on it at the end of the year by taking out the larger chunk.
Yes, you're going to have to pay some tax on it. I don't know if it's hefty, but you're going to have to pay. It's going to come out as ordinary income. That's true. It's a factor to consider. But again, on the amounts that we're talking, I don't see that as a big number. I'm arguing for convenience for you for this decision set here, Pete. Thanks for the call. Got to take a quick break for the news. We'll be right back. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna. You're listening to Dollars and Common Sense on News Talk 790 WNIS.
Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life. Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life.
And welcome back to Dollars and Common Sense, your local source for objective, unbiased financial advice. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna, the president at Wealthway Financial Advisors, the premier financial planning firm in Hampton Roads, where we integrate expert investment management with customized ongoing financial planning advice to help our clients answer life's big financial questions and enhance their quality of life. For more information about us, you can look us up online at wealthwayadvisors.com. Once there, you can request an information packet to find out what it's like to work with us, or sign up for a free quarterly newsletter at wealthwayadvisors.com. Just go to the Request a Consultation page, put your name and address in the dialog boxes there, select the appropriate drop-down menu, and we'll get that information out to you later on this week. And that's all we will use your name and address for, is just to send you the information that you request. Or if you got some more nuanced questions, want to give us a call at the office, 456-2200. And want to remind our listeners that our next live show will be in 2 weeks on Tuesday, May 12th at 6 p.m. as usual. But if you can't catch us live every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, get this show as a podcast. Search for Dollars and Common Sense wherever you get your podcasts. Download us, take us with you where you go, and listen at your convenience. And if you're into social media, we have a presence on Facebook and LinkedIn. Search for Wealthway Financial Advisors, hit that like or follow button, and once every week or two we put up an interesting, informative financial planning post to keep you engaged in the process. Okay, tonight we are talking about the other retirement risks. The main one everyone knows about, running out of money in retirement. The one that most people don't think about, underspending in retirement. Why does underspending happen in retirement? It seems very counterintuitive. Well, underspending is rarely a math problem. It's a psychological one. And I'm here to report more money is not always better. That's right. Hard to believe, but more money is not always better for every person. And really, for most of us, getting to a point of enough money and being comfortable with what enough money means is more of the challenge. Because really, there's no limit to the amount of money one can amass if that's all one wants to do, right? There's no threshold. There's no ceiling stopping you. It's your own efforts. It's the economy. It's all kinds of forces, but there's no hard stop there. You can try to amass as much as you want, and there's also no limit on spending. You can make the world is full of actors and musicians and athletes that made millions of dollars a year and ended up millions of dollars in debt and bankrupt because they spent through it all. So it's coming to terms with what enough means for you. So key drivers of underspending: fear of longevity, right? I don't know how long I'm going to live, so I always want to make sure I have enough, because if I don't want to expire before my bank account runs out. There's the fear of market volatility. That's understandable. people who are heavily invested in the market, as you should be. It's one of the greatest wealth creation vehicles in human history. But in the short term, it goes up and down. And when it goes down enough and for long enough, people start to get nervous or concerned if they don't know that they're going to be okay. So fear of market volatility often causes people to be more conservative in their spending. Fear of healthcare costs, well, that's understandable too, right? Don't know if I'm going to have big operation, big medical expenses. I will say that we have plenty of clients who are on Medicare, and despite what you think of the program, it tends to do a very good job of picking up most medical expenses that people have at that stage of their life. And we've had clients with heart issues, cancer treatments, shoulder replacements, knee, hips, all kinds of things. And oftentimes they report very little out-of-pocket medical expenses under the Medicaid program. So just something to maybe put your mind a little bit at ease as it relates to healthcare costs. Also, the fear of future taxes, or I should say the fear of future tax rates, fear of future tax rates going up and people having to pay more in taxes than they're paying today. So that fear of the unknown, and that's at the whims of Congress. They're the ones who control the tax rates and tax brackets. That can change at any time. So being a little bit more conservative because of that unknown, possible. And then the last one, key driver of underspending, lack of income clarity. Most people who do not work with an advisor have no concept of how much they can reasonably and safely and responsibly spend from their investable assets throughout the course of their lifetime. Financial advisors are using typically very sophisticated modeling software in order to bring those answers to their clients. Without those answers, people have no clue if what they're spending is safe, sustainable, or putting them on a path to run out of money in 10 or 15 years. So lack of that income clarity caused them to be overly conservative. So as I stated early in the show, saving habits don't automatically, switch off. You don't just go from a saver one day to a spender the next day. So there's that issue to overcome. And then it is a reality that bad investment markets in the early years of retirement can be impactful to your long-term spending plan. In many ways, being an accumulator of assets, when you're a saver, when you're putting money in your company retirement plan throughout your lifetime, being an accumulator is easier than than when you enter the distribution phase of life and you then taking money from those investment vehicles and spending them. And it's a lot harder. The calculation is harder, and the impacts of an early poor market in the first year, 1 or 2 years, can be more significant if not planned for properly. Also, headlines, news create a sense of sort of permanent fear around us. So we think that the world is worse than it actually is. We have that perception. It's a perception issue. And so if we have negative activities happening all around us, that just tends to make us more conservative in general. And then a lack of a spending framework increases hesitation, right? No plan B, no backup plan. What happens in the event of a significant bear market, a 30% decline of my investment portfolio? What does that mean? What do I need to do when that happens? Do I need to do anything? If so, what? If you don't have clarity around that, then one way to make sure you don't have to deal with it is not spend too much of that money from your investment account anyway. But then that means that you could be selling yourself short. So behavioral finance research consistently shows that loss aversion intensifies after retirement, and that's completely understandable. That when we go through a bear market, when we're saving, it's actually our friend. It doesn't feel like it at the time to most people, but market declines as we're buying more shares of mutual funds or exchange traded funds or stock or what have you. We're buying them at short-term lower prices that in most cases, if you do your investment right, that's the best time to buy, and you'll be well rewarded when the market eventually turns. But that loss aversion, once you get into retirement, that just stings a whole lot more. So the real cost of underspending, it has real world consequences. It's just they're not as noticeable than the consequences of overspending. So some of the hidden costs of underspending: delayed or missed life experiences, the trip you didn't take, with your grandkids, the house that you didn't purchase that you always had your eye on, maybe the luxury vehicle that you remembered from your youth that you drove by and was up for sale, that 67 Mustang, that you always wanted when you were a kid. And you said, well, not now, I don't need it. But there it is for sale, $10,000. And you said, now's not a good time. Delayed or missed experiences, a cost of underspending. Reduced health and wellness investments, right? Investing in our own health and wellness costs money. Working out, working with a personal trainer, maybe getting nutritional help, that costs additional money, usually not covered by insurance. I'll do it another day. I don't have enough money yet. I'll wait until maybe it's too late. Increased stress and anxiety, not knowing how much can I safely spend. Is what I'm spending sustainable? Causes stress and anxiety. Regret later in retirement. The things that you didn't do, that you now look back on your life when you're in your 90s and that you maybe can't do anymore. The things that you didn't do, the regret that you have. Okay, you've got a few extra zeros in your investment account, but you missed some life experiences along the way that you can't get back. And that's a real cost of underspending. So how these manifest themselves is we hear from clients sometimes, we'll do it next year. Now's not the time. We're going to wait for a better time. Well, if you got the green light from a financial advisor that you can spend, then you should spend. Because as we age, as we get older, time becomes more valuable than money. When we're young, in our youth, we hope to have our lifetime ahead of us, 80, 90 years, life expectancy along the way. We don't have much money, typically, right? When we start out entry-level jobs, got plenty of time ahead of us, but very little money. And so we condition ourselves to go after that money and do all the things we need to do to get more money. But as we age and we start to build our net worth over time, we get older, we have more money, but we have less time. So sometimes thinking about the problem that way gets people to reframe their thinking and then gives them some mental permission to go ahead and spend some more money. And then, the health and the energy declines a lot of times faster than the finances. And so, like I said, sometimes when maybe you do say, okay, now's the year we take the trip. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to spend a month, right? And then you have a health issue crop up and you got to go to doctor's appointments, or now you have to have a procedure and you can't go on the trip. So oftentimes, opportunity comes when it comes, and you either recognize it or you don't, and you either seize it or you don't. And oftentimes that opportunity is fleeting, never to be seen again. So think about that next time you're weighing your spending versus savings issue. And I should caveat all of this and say most people do not have an underspending spending problem. I know that. There's only my unscientific estimate of the amount of people who truly are willing to modify their behaviors and their lifestyle to achieve financial security and independence, probably only about 20% of the population. And so 80% of the population, this is all lost on them. I'm only speaking to about the 20% of the population that does want to achieve a reasonable level of financial security and maybe even financial independence. But in that cohort, in that 20%, these are some of the problems. These are some of the things that we hear and we see in our practice. And the psychological toll of the constant caution, of always being fearful of the unknown, instead of loosening up and feeling the freedom and joy that comes from some delayed gratification finally being met. Regret often shows up late when it's harder to fix in life. You can't go back in time and undo or do the things that you didn't do. And retirement satisfaction studies consistently link quality of life to purposeful spending and experiences, not account balances. Once you get to a certain level of account balances, it's how can we use this money? Is it enough? Am I content with the level it's at? Do I have a good life? And can I use the money to maintain that life without working if I don't want to, or even enhance the lifestyle I have? When is it enough? And once it's enough, then you start to have permission to spend. Okay, we're going to take a last short break. We'll be right back after these messages. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna. You're listening to Dollars and Common Sense on News Talk 790 WNIS.
Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life. Wealthway Financial Advisors, planning for life.
And welcome back to Dollars and Common Sense, your local source for objective, unbiased financial advice. I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna, the president of Wealthway Financial Advisors, the premier financial planning firm in Hampton Roads, where we integrate expert investment management with customized ongoing financial planning advice to help our clients answer life's big financial questions and enhance their quality of life. For more information about us, look us up online at wealthwayadvisors.com. All right, tonight we're talking about that other retirement risk, underspending in retirement, something that very few people think of, something we've never addressed on this program before. I feel remiss for having not done that. Make sure that does not happen again going forward. But there's a real loss of, this has to do more with life, behavior, life experiences than it does any sort of technical financial planning strategies. But people oftentimes will underspend what they're capable of spending once they go into retirement for a host of the reasons I brought up early in the show, many of them around the fear of the unknown. So how do we at Wealthway help families avoid underspending? So good planning should give families confidence, okay? Your financial advisor, if you're working with one, should provide you with significant analytical guardrails that give you the confidence to know that what they recommend as your spending level is reliable and sustainable. So key planning elements that enable spending: clear, reliable income streams. Every one of our clients, as they're approaching retirement, we basically tell them, here's how much we think you can effectively spend monthly or annually for the foreseeable future, with a high degree of probability that that money will last your lifetime from here on out. And if or when we do go through a period of time of significant market downturn, here's what we're going to do at that point in time, so you have a safety net upon your safety net. And and that we have a backup plan that gives people peace of mind. So also tax-aware withdrawal strategies, being as efficient as you can with taking money out of your investment accounts. You got still have money with a TSP or 401k, or you have it in traditional IRA. All that money comes out as ordinary income, highest tax type of money. You might have a Roth IRA, comes out tax-free. You might have a regular brokerage account, comes out under with tax-preferred capital gains tax rate, so better than ordinary income, but not as good as tax-free with a Roth IRA. But being efficient on your withdrawal strategies to make your money last longer. Stress-tested financial plans, not single projections. A financial plan done once is practically worthless. Life gets in the way too frequently. As soon as the ink is dry, something is usually changed in your life to render a big chunk of that plan invalid. So stress-tested plans need to be done continuously over time, not once and put on a shelf. Ongoing plan updates as life evolves. People get married, people get divorced, spouses die, kids are born, life happens. Stress-tested plans. Ongoing planning updates. And then framing spending as intentional, not reckless. It's a period of time in your life that if you've done your planning right up to retirement, this should be a joyous time of intentional, guilt-free spending. And that's a hard message for a lot of good savers to hear, right? We turn our clients' investment portfolios into a retirement paycheck. And every month, we have X amount deposited into their bank account, just like their paycheck was direct deposited into their bank account. We set up the same type of structure with their investment accounts. It's just like they're getting paid from their investments. Creating spending confidence through structure, organization, simplicity. Adjusting plans as reality unfolds. Giving permission without removing the discipline. All those factor into allowing people, freeing them up to be able to spend more money that they work so diligently and so hard to save in their early years and up into retirement. So hopefully tonight raised some awareness, made you think about retirement in a different way. For those of you who are prolific savers, this is going to be something you're going to have to contend with. Underspending in retirement is a risk. It's not a virtue. The fear is understandable, but it's not inevitable, and confidence comes from coordination and clarity. I'll be back in 2 weeks on Tuesday, May 12th at 6 p.m. as usual. Until then, I'm certified financial planner Kevin Zivna. You've been listening to Dollars and Common Sense on News Talk 790 WNIS. The preceding program was sponsored and paid for by Wealthway Financial Advisors. We are solely responsible for its content.